Los Angeles, California. March 11th, 1958. A small dinner party. Beverly Hills. Intimate. 20 guests. Hollywood elite. Gregory Peck, David Niven, William Holden, and at the center of the room, holding court, was Frank Sinatra. Next to him, radiant in a black cocktail dress, was Lauren Bacall. They'd been dating quietly for 8 months, since Humphrey Bogart died. Tonight felt different. Frank had been attentive all evening, holding her hand, whispering in her ear. At 10 p.m., he stood up, tapped his glass. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The room went quiet. Frank looked at Lauren. "Betty," that's what he called her, her real name, Betty. "I've been thinking about this for a while, and I don't want to wait anymore." He got down on one knee. The room gasped. "Will you marry me?" Lauren's eyes filled with tears. Yes, of course." Frank stood up, kissed her. The room erupted in applause. It was perfect, romantic, public, official. Lauren Bacall was engaged to Frank Sinatra. But 48 hours later, Frank Sinatra vanished, stopped returning calls, wouldn't answer the door, disappeared. And what happened over the next 6 months didn't just break Lauren's heart. It broke her faith in love itself. This is the story about the proposal that destroyed a friendship, and the silence that lasted 40 years. To understand what happened, you have to understand who Lauren Bacall was in 1958. She wasn't just an actress. She was Hollywood royalty. Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart, one of the great love stories. They met on the set of To Have and Have Not in 1944. She was 19, he was 44. 25-year age gap. But they were magnetic together. Married in 1945. 13 years together. 2 children, Stephen and Leslie. They were inseparable. The golden couple. Bogey was tough on screen, gentle at home. Lauren was fierce, independent, but devoted. Then, in January 1957, Bogart died. Esophageal cancer, 57 years old. Lauren was 32, a widow with 2 young children. Devastated. For months, she couldn't function, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't imagine life without him. Her friends worried. One of those friends was Frank Sinatra. Frank and Bogey had been close, part of the Rat Pack inner circle. When Bogart got sick, Frank visited constantly, sat with him, made him laugh, kept his spirits up. After Bogart died, Frank checked on Lauren. "You need anything? You call me, anytime." At first, it was just friendship, phone calls, dinners with mutual friends. But slowly, something shifted. Lauren started to feel alive again. And Frank was attentive, charming, present. By summer 1957, they were spending time alone. Dinners, long conversations, walks on the beach. By fall, it was clear this was more than friendship. But they kept it quiet. Too soon after Bogey's death. Too complicated. What would people say? Lauren didn't care. For the first time since Bogart died, she felt something other than grief. She felt hope. October 1957. Frank and Lauren became a couple. Officially. They were seen together at restaurants, parties, premieres. Hollywood whispered, "Sinatra and Bacall? Really?" Some people were supportive. She deserves happiness. Bogey would want that. Others were judgmental. It's only been 9 months. She's moving on already? Lauren didn't care what people thought. She was falling in love. Frank was different from Bogey. Bogart had been steady, grounded, a rock. Frank was electric, unpredictable, passionate. He sent flowers every day, called her 3 times a day, flew her to Vegas for weekends, introduced her to his kids. She introduced him to hers. Stephen and Leslie liked him. He's fun. He makes Mom smile. By early 1958, Lauren thought, this is it. This is my second chance. Frank felt the same, or so she thought. He talked about the future. We should get a place together, somewhere we can both feel at home. What about the kids? We'll blend them, make it work. Families do it all the time. Lauren believed him. Why wouldn't she? Frank Sinatra was telling her he wanted forever. The dinner party was at Clifton Webb's house, a friend of both Frank and Lauren. 20 guests, elegant, champagne, laughter. Lauren wore a black dress, simple, classic. Frank wore a tuxedo. They arrived together. Throughout dinner, Frank was affectionate, hand on her back, whispers in her ear. At 10 p.m., Frank stood up, tapped his glass. Lauren thought he was going to make a toast. Instead, he got down on one knee. Betty, I've been thinking about this for a while. Lauren's heart stopped. I don't want to wait anymore. I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me? The room held its breath. Lauren looked at him. His eyes were sincere, warm. She said yes. Frank stood up, kissed her. The room erupted. Everyone rushed over. Congratulations, hugs, tears. It was perfect. Lauren was floating. This was real. Frank Sinatra wanted to marry her. After the party, they went back to Lauren's house, sat on the couch, talked until 3 a.m. When should we do it? Lauren asked. Soon. I don't want a long engagement, maybe summer, intimate ceremony, just family. Your kids will be okay with this? They love you. And Nancy's moved on. There's no drama there. What about the press? Frank smiled. Let them talk. We're happy. That's all that matters. They fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms. Lauren woke up at 7 a.m. Frank was already gone. Note on the table. Had to run. Early recording session. Love you. F. Lauren smiled. This was her life now. She was engaged to Frank Sinatra. The next morning, Lauren called Luella Parsons, the most powerful gossip columnist in Hollywood. Luella, I have news. Frank and I are engaged. He proposed last night. Luella screamed. Betty, this is wonderful. Can I print it? Yes. I want everyone to know. When's the wedding? This summer. We're keeping it small. I'm so happy for you, darling. You deserve this. By noon, it was in every newspaper in America. Sinatra to marry Bacall. Betty Bacall engaged to Frank Sinatra. Second chance at love for Bogart's widow. The phone at Lauren's house rang nonstop. Reporters, friends, family. Congratulations! We're so happy for you. When can we see the ring? Lauren was on cloud 9. She tried to call Frank. No answer, left a message. Frank, it's Betty. The news is everywhere. Call me when you can. Love you. He didn't call back. She assumed he was busy, recording, meetings. She'd see him tonight. They had dinner plans. 7 p.m. Lauren got dressed for dinner. Blue dress, pearls, hair perfect. Frank was supposed to pick her up at 7:30. 7:30 came. No Frank. 7:45. No call. 8 o'clock. Lauren called his house. His assistant answered. Is Frank there? He's not available right now, Miss Bacall. Can you tell him I called? We had dinner plans. I'll let him know. She hung up, confused. This wasn't like Frank. He was always punctual, always called if plans changed. By 9 o'clock, Lauren was worried. She called again, no answer. She called his manager. Have you talked to Frank today? Yeah, earlier. Why? We had dinner plans. He didn't show. He's not answering. Long pause. I'm sure he's just caught up with something. Don't worry about it. Did he say anything to you? About the engagement? Another pause. No. He didn't mention it. Lauren hung up. Something was wrong. March 13th, day 2. Lauren called Frank's house. No answer. Called his assistant. He's in meetings all day, called his manager. Haven't heard from him? March 14th, day 3. Lauren drove to Frank's house, rang the doorbell. No answer. She could see his car in the driveway. He was home. He just wasn't answering. March 15th, day 4. A friend called Lauren. Betty, I saw Frank last night at Chasen's with some people. Did you talk to him? I said hello. He was distant, cold, not like himself. Did he mention me? No. Lauren's stomach dropped. March 16th, day 5. Lauren called Frank's publicist. I need to talk to Frank. It's urgent. Miss Bacall, I've been instructed not to put calls through. Instructed by who? By Frank. What? I'm sorry, I can't help you. Lauren hung up and sat in silence. The truth was setting in. Frank Sinatra was ghosting her. March 20th, 1 week after the proposal. Lauren hadn't heard from Frank in 9 days. No calls, no messages, nothing. The press was calling constantly. When's the wedding? Have you set a date? What does Frank say about... Lauren stopped answering. She was humiliated, confused, angry. What had happened? Everything had been perfect. The proposal, the night they spent talking, the plans they made. And then, nothing. She replayed every conversation, looking for signs. Had she said something wrong? Done something wrong? No, Frank had been the one to propose. Frank had been the one to say he wanted forever. And now, Frank was the one hiding. 3 weeks later, Lauren had enough. She drove to Frank's recording studio, Capitol Records, Hollywood. She knew he was there. She'd called the studio directly. Is Frank Sinatra recording today? Yes, ma'am, until 6 p.m. Lauren arrived at 5:30, waited in the parking lot. At 6:15, Frank walked out. Lauren got out of her car. Frank? He stopped, turned around, saw her. His face went pale. Betty, don't Betty me. She walked toward him. You proposed to me, in front of 20 people. I said yes. I told the world, and then you disappeared. Frank looked down. I can explain. Explain what? That you're a coward? That you got scared and ran? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Frank? Because I don't understand. You told me you loved me. You told me you wanted a future. And then the second it became real, you vanished. Frank's voice was quiet. I panicked. Panicked? When you told the press. When I saw it in the papers. It became real. Too real. And I realized I wasn't ready. Lauren stared at him. So you proposed when you weren't ready? I thought I was, in the moment. But when I woke up the next day and saw the headlines, I realized I can't do this again. The marriage thing, the commitment, I've failed at it 3 times. I can't fail again. Lauren's voice broke. So you decided to fail me instead? Frank looked up. Betty, I'm sorry. You don't get to be sorry. You don't get to propose and then ghost me. You don't get to make me believe in love again and then destroy it. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. You humiliated me in front of the entire world. I announced our engagement, and you made me look like a fool. Silence. Frank reached for her hand. She pulled away. Don't touch me. Betty, please. My name is Lauren. Only Bogey called me Betty. And you're not him. You'll never be him. She turned and walked away. Got in her car, drove off. Frank stood in the parking lot, alone. Lauren Bacall never spoke to Frank Sinatra again. Not as friends, not as acquaintances. Never. They'd see each other at parties, industry events. Lauren would walk the other way. Frank would leave early. In 1960, Lauren married Jason Robards, actor, good man. The marriage lasted 8 years. Frank married Barbara Marks in 1976. Final marriage. It lasted until his death. But Lauren never forgave him, never forgot. In 1979, Lauren wrote her autobiography, Lauren Bacall, by Myself. She wrote about Bogart, their love, his death, and she wrote about Frank. Not much, just enough. Frank proposed to me in March 1958. I was thrilled. I thought it was real. But the next day, when the news became public, he disappeared, stopped calling, wouldn't see me. I never understood why, and I never forgave him for it. The book became a bestseller. Frank read it, called mutual friends. Is she still angry? Yes, Frank, she's still angry. Should I reach out? What would you say? Frank had no answer. By the 1990s, both Frank and Lauren were in their 70s. Lauren had become a theater legend, Broadway icon. Frank was still performing, still Frank. In 1993, someone asked Frank about Lauren Bacall. Do you regret what happened? Frank's response was honest. Every day. She was special, and I hurt her. Badly. I proposed because I meant it in that moment. But I wasn't ready for what came next. The scrutiny, the pressure, the expectation. And instead of being honest with her, I ran. That's the coward's way, and I've regretted it for 35 years. Did you ever apologize? I tried. She wouldn't speak to me, and I don't blame her. If you could talk to her now, what would you say? Frank thought about it. I'd say, you deserved better. You deserved someone who was brave enough to love you the way you needed. And I wasn't that person. I'm sorry. In 1996, Lauren was interviewed about her life. The interviewer asked about Frank. You wrote about him in your book, about the proposal that didn't lead to marriage. Are you still angry? Lauren smiled. Sad. I was angry for a long time. 20 years, maybe. But anger is exhausting. Eventually, I let it go. Did you forgive him? I understood him. That's different from forgiving. Frank wasn't built for marriage. He wanted it. Idealized it. But couldn't sustain it. And I think part of him knew that, which is why he ran. Do you wish things had been different? No. Because if I'd married Frank, I would have lost myself. He needed a wife who would orbit around him, who would make him the center of everything. And I couldn't do that. I'd already done that with Bogey. And Bogey earned it. Frank didn't. Did you love him? Lauren paused. For a few months, yes. I loved the idea of him, the possibility. But I loved Bogey. Really loved him. What I felt for Frank was grief trying to become hope. And when Frank disappeared, I realized it had never been real. May 14th, 1998. Frank Sinatra died. Lauren Bacall did not attend the funeral. She sent flowers. The card read, "You were a coward, but you were also kind. Rest now." Elpin Nancy Sinatra found the card, called Lauren. "Thank you for the flowers." "Of course. My father talked about you, near the end, said you were one of his biggest regrets." Lauren was quiet. He should have been braver. I know, he knew. I hope he found peace. I think he did, in his own way. They hung up. Lauren sat alone, thinking about Frank, about the proposal, about the man who'd promised forever and delivered 6 months. She didn't cry. She'd done all her crying in 1958. Now, 40 years later, she just felt tired of carrying the weight of that disappointment. She let it go. Finally, Frank Sinatra proposed to Lauren Bacall on March 11th, 1958. She said yes, announced it to the world. And 48 hours later, he vanished. Stopped calling. Wouldn't see her. Ghosted her. He wasn't ready. Never had been. But instead of telling her, he ran and left her to deal with the public humiliation, the questions, the pity. Lauren never forgave him, not because he didn't marry her, but because he didn't have the courage to be honest. He made a promise he couldn't keep, and then made her pay for his fear. When Lauren Bacall died in 2014 at age 89, her obituary mentioned 3 great loves: Humphrey Bogart, the love of her life, Jason Robards, her second husband, and buried deep in the article, one line: in 1958, Bacall was briefly engaged to Frank Sinatra. The engagement ended abruptly. That's all. One sentence. For a relationship that consumed 6 months of her life and 40 years of regret. Frank Sinatra proposed to Lauren Bacall. Then, he ghosted her. She never forgave him. And in the end, that silence said more than any love song ever could.